Right, so Fearless Confrontation, I think we can all agree, is anything but a Guardian card, right? But it is a very, very interesting effect, something that's kind of unique. We have seen it in, well, what was the card? I can't think of the card. The cheat card, right, for Mystic, where you can give X attack a -1. Although, this turns off Dominate as well, so it is very interesting. Plus, it's an instant discard. So, yeah, very, very interesting. Now, the usual thought is, well, really good in gravy, right? Basically, giving your allies one extra life is super nice, but what else can we utilize this for, right? Because whenever there's a unique effect like this, that's where my brain goes is, what can this interact with that is, crazy? And me and a mate were talking at our local armory, and Benji came up, right? So, what's Benji's ability again? Your attack action cards with 2 or less power can't be defended by cards from hand, right? So that is a static check, right? Whether or not it has 2. So if you buff it over 2, turns off Benji's ability. Similarly, though, if we discount it, minus it, debuff it, I guess is the correct phrasing. If we debuff it under 2, right? So taking a 3 down to a 2, we turn on Benji's ability. So what could we then utilize this for? Well, the main combo that comes to mind for Benji is Tiger Swiping, right? So Tiger Swipe, 0 for 2, and then combo if Crouching Tiger was the last attacker's combat chain. This unfortunately gets +2, making it turn off Benji's ability, as well as go again, and when this hits, create X Crouching Tigers in your banish zone, where X is the number of Crouching Tigers you control, and you may play them this turn. So the idea here would be to set up your string of Tigers, right? Play or declare Tiger Swipe, and then Fearless Confrontation it twice, to then make it a 0 base attack, right? That then gets its +2 because you've activated its combo, keeping it within Benji's range for his hero ability, right? Essentially making Tiger Swipe undefendable by cards from hand. Now, that is a very, very interesting thought, right? Because for one, if you're continuously playing Tigers underneath that threshold, anyway, your opponent's not able to block. So they're keeping their hand for instance, the payoff, right? Being Tiger Swipe. But on the other hand, we're taking it from a 4 breakpoint down to a 2. So that as well is then a bit more susceptible to, equipment, for instance. So it's sort of a bittersweet combo, and I wish there was a really solid 3 power, right, to make just one Fearless Confrontation useful. Maybe we get something in the future, maybe we don't. But yeah, it's still nonetheless a very, very interesting interaction to me. So with all that in mind, let's see what we can do with Benji. So of course, there's equipment still, right? Damage prevention, and your opponent playing something from Arsenal to disrupt this. And we also are missing links, right? Since it's banned in Blitz, otherwise that would probably be the icing on the cake. But still, we're here for the fun, so let's see what we can put together. So we have Predatory Streak to get some Crouching Tigers, Roar the Tiger to give them a nice big buff, and then basically just swinging and trying to stay under that 2 power threshold so that your opponent can't block with anything from hand, right? So we can also crack Pouncing Paws, so we have 5 Crouching Tigers in tow, and our Tiger Swipe, right? So nice and simple. First one's for 1, followed by a 2, and then a whole string of 1s. So, this is a decent level of chip damage, incentivizing your opponent maybe to block, but, again, if they know the combo's coming, most likely with Benji's ability, they're keeping, X thing in tow, especially, since we are decreasing the power of Tiger Swipe, but still, it's that sense of a gamble. Otherwise, still, Fearless Confrontation, it's a blue pitch form, it's kind of alright. It'd be nicer, if we had Zephyr Needles back, or it was 0, but oh well. So yeah, from here, I do have to remember to turn on Hold Priority, but the basic idea is we go Tiger Swipe, and then we can double play our Fearless Confrontations, targeting our Tiger Swipe, meaning that it is now base 0, and then it gets +2 from its combo effect, meaning it is now safely under the threshold for Benji's ability, and our opponent can't block with anything from hand, right? So that should increase its chance to land, but again, also then, well, a defense reaction would be about 4 block anyway, so that would normally cancel out Tiger Swipe regardless, but you still have the factor of equipment. I was thinking maybe the new Blossom Arms, right, from the Ira Armory deck with Edge of Autumn, so you can give it +1, but I don't know if that's too valuable either. I think overall just aiming for the Benji protection, trying to exhaust your opponent's equipment throughout the match is probably a nice enough idea, right? But so then Tiger Swipe hopefully lands, which, well, in this controlled environment, of course it does. And then, we can play a few more Tigers, and we can basically see if we either finish the chain or it crashes, because, yeah, I forget what the actual count is, but there is a set amount of chain links, or there was maybe, right, that you get to, and Talshare no longer likes you, right? But from there, we can use Benji's Spec, Spring Tiding, to then draw a whole bunch of cards, since we have effectively just swung less than 2, right, over and over again. So Spring Tiding, Hopefully, again, lands thanks to the protection from Benji's ability, and draws us a whole bunch of cards, right? So I haven't gone too crazy with this, but obviously then you could double down, right? And we go, for instance, Biting Breeze into our Aspect of the Tiger, and vice versa. All, again, 2 power or less attacks so that we can maximize the damage that we're getting across, hopefully, into another whole string of Crouching Tigers, followed by, of course, another Tiger Swipe, which is now open for your opponent to interfere with, right? Because we can't get Fearless Confrontation back in an easy enough manner. If there's ever, a 3 power on hit, or if there's one that I've missed, right? Maybe that's something as well. But yeah, so we can Tiger Swipe again. This one's 4, so our opponent can block it out, which is a bit unfortunate. You're probably better off just going with the Spring Tiding, of course, but, still sucking their hand away from that. Not landing is fine anyway, because Spring Tiding only cares, overall the hits, right? But then we can Spring Tiding, and I feel like this was almost the rest of the deck. I almost mathed it out correctly, right? So, yeah, there we go. Just Fearless Tiger Benji. It's an interesting effect nonetheless, right? Again, whenever there's something unique like this, it's really exciting the alternative possibilities, because the general mentality for Fab would be, why would I ever want to decrease the value of my attack, right? And the Transcend Chi card, right, is obviously Mystic. Zen didn't care as much, but with Benji, his whole ability built around, again, being under that power threshold, it is a very, very interesting card. Granted, if we do get an adult Benji, I think they've said that we won't. You probably won't have that ability anyway, because it's pretty nuts. Although, is it right in Classic Constructed, where you're just throwing out these micro amounts of damage, even if your opponent can't block them, you can't really fatigue out yourself because you don't have that many resources to utilize anyway, right? So I feel like the chip damage your opponent can come back at you with anyway is still going to be significant, but maybe you could go wide enough. But yeah, so there we go. Fearless Confrontation Benji to essentially turn on your hero ability, right? Yeah, so looking through the cards available for Benji, there's nothing too significant. You've got, like, Pain in the Backside, for instance. Maybe one day Ninja gets a really cool on-hit effect for a dagger, maybe, and then that becomes relevant, right? Otherwise, probably, I don't know, Vengeance Never Rests, but the reason why Tiger Swipe can potentially work is because the payoff is so huge for it, right? Because it can represent more value than the Fearless Confrontation itself, right? Whereas Vengeance Never Rests, having the pitch cost, losing a whole blue from your hand, just to again give it some level of protection against blocking, it's not too significant. So unfortunately, it does seem like the only real feasible things are, again, cards with higher payoff, which also seemingly have a higher base power for you to, again, minus, right? And then, generally speaking, having to find, a duplicate of X piece for your combo, unless there's something on board that does it, i.e. Plume, right? It's not too great. Maybe more so in Blitz, but yeah, still a fun sort of thing to strive for. And again, it is definitely, protection for that combo. And that combo could do numbers. Yeah. Anyway, food for thought. Let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed. So yeah.